everybody, Annalisa here with ABC for Dance. Today we're looking at anatomy lesson number 15, which is about our spine. Normally Fred's been a great model for us, but because of the way he's put together, his spine can't move. And for this lesson I wanted to be able to show you a little bit about spinal movement, so I'm using this stand-in for Fred today. Okay. Our spine is made up of many different bones. They are called vertebra. And each vertebra can move independently of each other, so they have the ability to move in between each one, whether it's flexing, extending, rotating, or we can have them all work together and we collectively just call that our spine. We're going to start at the bottom. So at the very bottom, we have a bunch of fused vertebra, which creates the sacrum. So this is the sacrum, right? The sacrum is a wedge-shaped bone, and your hips sit against it. So this would be the bones of my hip that we've looked at earlier. And if you notice, the sacrum is not smooth, it's very bumpy. And it's bumpy because there's a lot of muscle attachment there, and all of those bumps give it like little nooks and crannies for muscles to attach to, but it also helps keep the connection with our hips. So here you can see the sacrum fitting against the bones of the hip and the pelvis. So the sacrum becomes part of that unit. But the sacrum is a bunch of bones that are fused together, so they're not individually mobile the way the rest of our spine is. Below the sacrum is our coccyx, which you might know as your tailbone, and that does move. So my coccyx is a jointed bone, and it has some movement, and that movement is part of the reason we have to be very careful when we fall on our bum straight down, because this can break off or be dislocated very easily. We're going to go up into our lower back area. So our lower back area is called the lumbar, and we have 5 lumbar vertebrae. This is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And our lumbar vertebrae are the biggest vertebrae in our body. They're the biggest because they're on the bottom of this whole column, and they have to support the most weight. After our 5 lumbar vertebrae, we go up to 12 thoracic vertebrae. So we have 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Those are our thoracic vertebrae. And what's special about those vertebrae is they connect to our rib cage. So our ribs are going to come into play by connecting with the thoracic vertebra. So if that's the back of my body, my rib would come around to the front. Okay, and it's actually going to be that connection. But that's what allows us to move, is that rib connection is another kind of a joint where we can have movement so we can breathe in and out. Then we go up to our cervical or our neck vertebra, and we have 7 of those. So we have 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Then it's really hard to see the top one. The top one's a little bit different. So the top cervical vertebra, C1, is called the atlas. And the atlas is a different shape from all the other vertebrae. You notice it doesn't have a really big spiny part coming out of the back. It becomes like a holder for our head. So your skull would go onto the atlas. And if you want an easy way to remember it, if you think of mythology, we had the god Atlas holding the globe of the world. Our atlas holds our head. The vertebra under it is called your C2, but it's also called your axis, and it's also shaped differently, because what happens is that vertebra has a little lump or little knob on it that lets us turn our head. So the axis and the atlas and the axis really are about our ability to move our head. and then we go into the rest of the neck. If you look from the side, you'll notice that the vertebrae have curves to them. The sacrum comes out towards the back, or it's rounded to the back. The lumbar rounds to the front of the body. The thoracic rounds to the back of the body, and the cervical rounds to the front of the body. And together, that gives your body the ability to have a kind of a springy quality to the spine to act as a shock absorber from walking or any impact that we take in our body. When we look at the vertebra, we're going to see something in between each vertebra. That's called a disc. These discs are cartilage, hydrocartilage, and inside of them is a lot of fluid, mostly water. Just for a point of note, when you are dehydrated, one of the first places your body's going to take the water from is from these discs in between your spine, because they're not crucial to your survival. They are important for your comfort, but it's not like taking the water from your brain or from organs that would keep you from being able to live healthily. So whenever you're dehydrated, your spine is actually one of the first places that's going to be impacted. If you need another reason to sip on your water all day, that would be a good one. You might also notice at the end of the day, you feel a little bit shorter than you did at the start. It could be a combination of dehydration and gravity. Because these discs are soft, it does allow compression, which means gravity all day could be pulling you down. With our spine, we have several movements. We have flexion, where we can round forward. We have extension, where we arch backwards. We have rotation, where we twist sideways. And we have lateral flexion, where we go from side to side. And we'll be talking about all of those in other lessons. The one we want to look at today is about flexion. I'm going to do this sitting down because any of the walls that I have in my room that are straight enough for me to lean on are too short. And so I'm already in a rounded position. So instead, I'm going to pretend I have a wall behind me, and I'm going to sit up nice and straight. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my head coming forward, and then as my neck, which is also my cervical vertebra, come rounding forward, I'm going to start softening in my thoracic or my rib cage area and start allowing myself to round forward. And as I do that, I'm going to continue to round forward one piece at a time. And if you're looking at me from the side, you're going to notice, especially for my spine, that I have some places that aren't going to be as rounded as other places. So I may have a lot of rounding in the top or my thoracic area, but my lumbar area might be kind of flat looking. And that's kind of just the way my spine goes. So I have to work on trying to round my lower back more. I'm going to show you against the wall what the best way for you to do this at home is to stand against a wall, walk your feet a little bit forward. If you have somebody that can watch you and give you feedback, great. If not, this is another time that your phone or tablet camera can come in really handy. Put it next to you so it's looking at you sideways the way you were just looking at me in the chair. You're going to start looking down with your head, and as you start to roll down, you're going to feel almost like you're pushing into the wall a little bit to allow the next part to come forward. Your knees are soft, and you're going to let yourself just continue to round down as far as you can without your pelvis coming off the wall. And then you want to stay there for a second, and again think my pelvis is against the wall, my upper body is rounded up and over. And as I restack one piece at a time, I want to think of keeping my pelvis against the wall and just finding my back touch. My lower back may very well come off the wall as soon as my thoracic spine comes on. Because of that curve that we have, everybody's a little bit different, but most people will not have their lower back flat against the wall. So one more time, you start with your head and you peel down one piece at a time, and imagine each one of those vertebrae coming off the wall. So you have 12 vertebrae coming off through your rib cage area, and then you're going to start coming off into a little bit of your lumbar area, but if you go too far, you're going to feel your pelvis leave the wall. And then you're going to roll back up one piece at a time until you restack. Now, when you work on that, you want to first feel it. Does it feel like your body is moving one piece at a time, or do you feel like you went clunk, 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 clunk? Which happens quite often, especially when you're growing still, because things get tight, and if you've been sitting a lot watching all your schooling on the computer now, it just gets really hard. So you want to allow one piece at a time to come down, one piece at a time to come up. See how that feels. And then you want to look at your video that you took from the side and see, do you notice any spots that are more rounded than others or some that are flatter than others? And the goal is to try to feel things evenly. So what you might find you have to do is the areas you bend really well in, you might bend less in so that you can work on flexing or rounding other areas more. Don't forget to do your worksheet. And when you do your worksheet, let's just go back through those pieces again so you can label them. The sacrum is at the very bottom. Your tailbone or coccyx is below that. Then we have our lumbar spine, our thoracic spine, and our cervical spine. And on top of our cervical spine, we have our head. Thanks for a great lesson, and have a great rest of your day.